The Seattle Kraken are in the Stanley Cup Playoffs in only their second season of existence. Erica Ayala is here to discuss their playoff prospects next on the road to the Stanley Cup. And hello, everybody. Gil Martin here. The Locked On Road to the Stanley Cup continues as we welcome Erica Ayala from Locked On Kraken to take stock of Seattle's chances to make a deep playoff run. And Erica, got to be a lot of excitement in Seattle right now.
Yes, indeed. We are definitely excited here. That being said, I do want to take just a moment, Gil. We had a member of the long-term Seattle hockey community, and of course, the beat writer here, Andy Ide. He just passed yesterday. We got the news, and so I want to make sure I uplift him and his legacy here, as well as his family. But yes, we are happy for the team, and we are excited to see what this team can do after such a miraculous run that we had in only our second season.
Yeah, pretty incredible. So what is the biggest storyline heading into the playoffs for the Kraken?
I think, honestly, for me, it's how the Seattle Kraken have been able to improve year over year and to do it in a way that we're essentially playing by committee. We've been scoring by committee. We've been playing defense, which, Gil, is a huge focus of mine, by committee. And that has led to our success this season.
Well, that's always a good way to do it. And, it keeps the team very cohesive. What do you think is the biggest reason that the Kraken might just win the Stanley Cup this year?
I think it's going to be going off of by committee, but then also the depth. We have oftentimes, especially late in the early part of the season, going into the midway part of the season, we've seen that our fourth line offensively has really sustained what Seattle has been able to do. And so when we have fourth liners who are holding it down offensively, but also some of those players that can plug and play. Unfortunately, we will not have Andrei Burakovsky for the first round of the playoffs. That is a reason that I truly think that Seattle can go the distance.
And how about the biggest reason why they will not win the Stanley Cup?
That is a great question. And I think if I really had to get into that headspace, I would say goaltending is a question mark for the Seattle Kraken. We've seen that has improved along with almost everything else, all other metrics for the team, but we know that Martin Jones had sustained an injury. Philip Grubauer was injured earlier in the season, and then we've had a little bit of a seesaw. That being said, Philip Grubauer has been playing really great in net as of late, so I think that if we can see some stability within our goaltending, even outside of this playoff run, that's really going to take the Seattle Kraken to the next level. But that's where I kind of like this matchup. There's a little bit of pride for a Philip Grubauer going up against his former team. He knows at least some of the players that are around. And, this is a different Colorado Avalanche team we saw last season. They also are dealing with some injuries and whatnot. But I think we really have to see what type of goalie tandem we're going to get postseason.
Well, it should be interesting to say the least. Who is the key player to watch for fans who may not be as familiar with the Kraken as you are, certainly?
Yes, I think the easy answer is Jared McCann. He has reached career milestones and bests in points overall, assists, and goals. He's our first ever 40 goal scorer for the Seattle Kraken, and he also has brought a lot of determination. He's one of the first players to talk openly, especially coming out of that trade deadline, about how much it means to him personally to get this team on board. And of course, we know there's news coming from the Penguins side of things. They are not in the playoffs, but also have some shakeups there. And actually, we're hearing that some people reporting that some of the red flags with some of the leadership on the Penguins side of things was letting Jared McCann go. And here we sit now in only our second season with Jared McCann as one of our leading scorers, certainly since Andrei Burakovsky's injury. And that is just a player that you absolutely have to watch, between his determination, the great storyline, and honestly, the performance that he's put up for us this season.
So what would a successful playoff run look like for the Kraken? And I mean, what what's at stake basically if they fall short of that expectation?
That's a really great question. And I'm not really sure there is an expectation. This is all new for us. And at least when we talk on Locked On Kraken, I was talking about that everything is a little bit ahead of schedule from what certainly I expected and anticipated, and maybe even a little bit of ahead of schedule of what the master plan is for this team. So that being said, I don't want to say there aren't any expectations, because we do want to see, and we heard from Dave Haxtell at practice today, everything is just about doing what Seattle does well at every second of every game. That's the discipline that it takes in the playoffs. And so that's the barometer. And we know what good Seattle Kraken hockey looks like. So that's the barometer. As far as what the results will be, the expectations, I think getting through the first round would be huge for Seattle. I mean, obviously everyone wants to get through round for round, but again, there's just a lot of different factors here. We're going up against a team that knows what it's like to play in the playoffs, and I do think that matters across any sport. Having been there before, not just as individual players, because we have Stanley Cup champions on the team. That's one thing that I really do think has changed year over year, is getting more of those players, but there is something to be said. And again, Dave Haxtell and a few of the other guys in the locker room today talking about that it's one thing to know what it's like to be in the postseason or even in a final. It's another thing to then do that with a different group of guys. And this is a completely new team, only 2 years in. And so I think this team sets the expectation. They already have for the franchise, but now we get to do that in what postseason play looks like.
Actually watching the culture of a franchise being built, essentially.
Exactly.
Well, thank you, Erica. That does it for our Kraken preview here on the Locked On Road to the Stanley Cup. Be sure to subscribe to or follow Locked On Kraken for free on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. The Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.